God can use you. He can use the people around you, your brothers in Christ, to help you through that time. Use the people at church. But let people see that there's God fruit in your life. Because you know, no matter what the situation, you're always making a choice. You can either glorify God, and it might not always be our first thought, but you can glorify God and produce fruit in any situation if you choose to. You don't have a job. Pray that God would use you. Whatever you're doing, you might have some extra free time on your hand. Let Him use you in that situation so that His name can be glorified. In Colossians 1, 9 through 12, I'm going to read a little bit and kind of introduce this to you guys, because I think it's very important that we hear what Paul is doing here. Paul is praying for the Colossian Christians. They're a bunch of new believers, and he's praying for them. When I read these verses, you're going to hear he's asking God, he's interceding with God on their behalf. That's Colossians 1, and we're going to read 9 through 12 basically. And he's asking God, and when I read this, you're going to hear he's asking God to give them knowledge, the new believers and the believers in Christ. Give them wisdom, give them strength, and give them joy. And he's praying that so that they would mature, so that they would be able to be used, so that they would make themselves available to God right where they were to produce fruit in their lives so that other people could see how He's working. So this is Paul's prayer. For this reason, since the day we heard about you, we have not stopped praying for you. He's lifting his brothers up in Christ. We continually ask God to fill you with the knowledge of His will through all the wisdom and understanding that the Spirit gives, so that you may live a life worthy of the Lord and please Him in every way, bearing fruit in every good work, growing in the knowledge of Christ, being strengthened with all power according to His glorious might, so that you may have great endurance and patience, and giving joyful thanks to the Father who has qualified you to share in the inheritance of His holy people in the kingdom of light. Not that they have to try harder, not that they have to do more, but whatever they're doing, wherever they are in their life, that God may use them and fruit might be produced, godly fruit. So you guys that are here today, if you don't have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, the first thing you need to ask yourself is, why don't I? What's holding me back from this? And for those of you who do believe, who are followers of Jesus Christ, we have a couple questions to ask ourselves. Number one, am I modeling Paul's prayer? Am I really praying for the brothers in Christ that come to engage? Am I praying that they would mature, that they would produce godly fruit? Am I praying that God would work in their lives so that His name can be glorified? Or do we just kind of pass it by and offer up a prayer real quick and go on our way? Are we really on our knees praying for these guys that have just come to know Christ? The guys that are sitting at your table today, are you going to go home and pray for them? By name. Meet them where they are. What is it that they talked about today? Where do they need your prayers? And the second thing, are you producing fruit so that God's name can be glorified? Right now, I'd like for you guys to take a couple seconds at your tables. Just bow your heads. And you know, we did it at communion last night at Thirsty. You know, you kind of examine yourself and you see, where's my life with Christ right now? So I want you guys at your tables, before we talk about this godly fruit thing, I want you guys at your tables right now. Take a couple minutes, bow your heads, and look at your life. Look at your life today. Look at your life this past week and see if there's been any God fruit, or it's more about your fruit. And then in a couple seconds, I'll just kind of stop you guys and we'll talk about the questions today. All right, as you guys, I hate to cut you off, but as you guys are sitting here today and you think about it, or maybe you leave here and you think about the verses we shared today, I'd encourage you just to find some place, just reflect. Reflect on what you're doing for the glory of God, and if you're using the opportunities presented for yourself. The questions that we're going to go over today. Look at your life. Where do you see God being glorified? Talk about where you see God's fruit in your life. Where do you see your fruit instead of God's fruit? What changes can you make so that you are glorifying God? And the last one, where are you with Christ today? You may be here today in these questions. We're talking about God and the relationship. You might not know where you are with Christ. You might be far away from Him, and the furthest thing from your mind is actually doing something to glorify His name. Be honest with the guys at your table. That's all we ask, is that you're honest with one another. Because if you're not honest, we don't know how to relate to you. Be truthful. Remember, only you and God know if you're telling the truth today. But you have people at your table who care about you as a person and want to get to know you better. And they want to know how they can pray for you. So be honest. 1, 2, 3, go. You know, as I was looking for this talk and just praying about it and trying to figure out what I was going to talk about and what was kind of coming into my life and the things I was looking at, started doing some research on fruit trees. And so I put a list of trees down. I'm a teacher, so you guys have homework this week, so I hope you don't mind. It's good homework, though, right? If there is such a thing. And what I ask that you guys do, you know, Paul prayed for the Colossians, and he prayed, right? He went on their behalf, whether they were new Christ followers, which a lot of them were, or following Christ, that they would mature and show fruit. So what I ask that you guys do this week is this. Each one of you is going to get a piece of paper. I ask that you get the names and the numbers of the guys at your table, and that as you look over the list, you kind of see where you are with Christ right now. What kind of tree best represents you? And call one of the guys. Call them all. It's up to you. Just reach out and say, hey, I'm praying for you. I remember what you asked us to pray about on Saturday morning. And this is the kind of tree that I think I am right now. What about you? And just start a relationship. And follow up with that person and see where they are with Christ. And see how their week is going. Because it's not about doing life as individuals. It's about doing life together. And that's what I think we all need to do. So before you leave, let me give these to you. Steve, would you close in prayer?